I'm sure you know that this Chassidut is very, very important to go to the mikveh. The mikveh is water from heaven, untouched, pure rainwater. And, not only our body needs washing, my soul needs washing too from time to time, right? The world doesn't know how to wash my soul. If God wouldn't have said there in the Torah, I wouldn't know how to do it. But there is a mikveh. That means, thank God, in most good cities, there is somewhere people got together and they organize it. Mamish, it filters into the roof. And Chassidut, it's very strong. At least I grew up with that. At least, okay, if you cannot go every day, but Friday you have to go before Shabbos. Gotta wash your soul off. Anyway, so whenever I come to a city, I travel around the world a little bit. I come to a city on Friday, I call up the synagogue. Do you have a mikveh by any remote chance? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. What can you do? I'm coming to a city somewhere without mentioning names, somewhere in the Wild West. And yes, there was a mikveh. Unbelievable. But usually when I go to mikveh in this Wild West cities, I'm the only one who was there maybe the last 100 years. One time I called up the synagogue and I said, do you have a mikveh? He say, what? I said, listen, yes or no? I don't want to hurt your feelings. He says, wait a minute. Another man comes to the phone. And I say the same thing, do you have a mikveh? He says, what? I say, tell me yes or no. He says, wait a minute. Finally, about, I don't know how many people come to the phone. Finally, I said, listen, do me a favor. Tell me yes or no. I'm not here just... Let me tell you something. We built a mikveh 15 years ago. And you're the first person who ever asked to go through. Couldn't believe it. Mazel tov. Anyway, so I'm in that way out city. Friday afternoon, I'm calling up the synagogue. Yes, there was a mikveh. Okay, I'm going there. And I'm just about leaving. A person walks in and looks real coarse. Doesn't look like a person who, I don't know what, real coarse, right? With a big cowboy hat in Texas, was in Texas, and he's going to the mikveh. I'm sure he made a mistake. Anyway, no. And he turns to me in real Yiddish, not American Yiddish. You can see he's from Europe, right? He says to me, what are you doing here, I'm crazy. I didn't want to say back, what are you doing here? I said, obviously, we're here. I said, what's your story? It just doesn't make sense. There's a saying before, everything is written on the face. Most of the time it's written on the face. You can have a little sense with it. It doesn't fit. So he says, wait, tell you later. Okay, I'm waiting, he's going to the mikveh, he's coming out. Officer drive me back to my hotel. And this is the story. He says, I want you to know, you see, usually when a person goes on Friday to the mikveh, keeps Shabbos, right? Because you don't go Sunday to the mikveh to keep Monday, right? You don't go Monday to the mikveh for a beautiful Tuesday. Friday you go to the mikveh to have a very exalted Shabbos. So he says, most probably you assume that I keep Shabbos. You're mistaken. He says, sometimes I keep Shabbos, and to be very honest with you, sometimes I don't. He says, let me tell you my story. I want you to open your hearts, friends. He says, I'll tell you something. When I was 7, 8 years old, my father took me for one Shabbos to the holy Rebbe Yisroel of Viznits. Everybody heard of Viznits? Viznits is in Romania, one of the highest, very holy dynasties of Chassidish Rebbes. And their specialty is two things. Their specialty is utmost joy and utmost Shabbos. You can't do either way, right? If you don't know what joy is, you don't know what Shabbos is. If you don't know what Shabbos is, what do you know about joy, right? Okay. Then also the Rebbe Mamish was so humble, so deep. Anyway, he says, this was the only time in my life I would ever buy a Rebbe, but I'll tell you what happened to me. He says, in Viznits by the Rebbe, with thousands of people, the pushing was to the end of the world. So my father was afraid I'd be crushed. So he says to me, you know what, long before the table began, I'll put you under the Rebbe's table, very close to the Rebbe, so you'll be able to be there. And if you fall asleep, you know, like little kids of 7, if you fall asleep, you lie down under the table. And if you'll be up, you'll be up. Because the people who were standing were absolutely, you know. Anyway, he says, there were some more kids also under the table, the whole kingdom of children under the table. And, okay, you know, it was very beautiful. We were sitting there. And the Rebbe, you know, the Rebbe was so sweet. And the Rebbe knew there are kids under the table. He knew that most probably the grown-ups forgot already that there are kids under the table. The Rebbe would take challah and hold it under the table. And he had soup, you know, most probably it spilled, but he put it under the table. Whoever got it, got it. And since I was so close to the Rebbe, I got everything. And Imam Shnu, the Rebbe, knows I'm here. You know, for little children, it's so important to be noticed. So important. I mean, important is not the word. Got to find a new word for that kind of importance. Anyway. So he says, I'm sitting under the table, and the Rebbe begins to say Torah, very deep teachings on the portion of the week, which I tell you the truth, I didn't understand. Suddenly I hear Mamash, I could feel it, the Rebbe's Mamash, saying something. He says, my dearest brothers, my sweetest friends, I have to tell you something of utmost importance, and I want you to remember till your very last day and even after that. He says there are moments when we want to do something very holy. There are moments when we are so holy and so pure, completely untouched. But then, Brother Satan comes, our little other side, and says to us, hey brother, I know you. I have your number. I know what you did yesterday, and I also know what you're planning to do in 2 hours. And I definitely know what you're going to do tomorrow. So whom are you fooling? What do you mean suddenly you have a little holiness attack? You have a little Jewish attack. You know, some people have a Jewishness attack or a little soul attack. Cut it out, you know, just be honest. You know, there's a new thing now. Be honest. So the Rebbe Mamash got on his feet. And he started yelling from the deepest depths of his heart. He says, tell your other side. Have compassion. Give me 5 minutes to be close to God. Give me 5 minutes. Then he sat down. And he put his holy hand under the table on my capella, on my little head. Then he says, Mataiken, my precious child. Did you hear what I said? Did you really hear what I said? He says, I want you to know a year or two later we came to America. And I really didn't have much of a Jewish education. I don't keep everything. But from time to time, he says, I have the urge just to be holy. And I remember what the Rebbe said. Even if 5 minutes later you'll be rotten to the core. Even if 5 minutes later you'll be the last. Or what's wrong with being holy for 5 minutes? So to tell you the truth, I don't know if I'll keep the Shabbos. Maybe yes, maybe not. I just wanted to go to the Mikveh. Gewalt, right? Gewalt 1,000 times. You know what our problem is? Our problem we always, whenever we do something, it has to be for always, right? Whenever I have a little soul attack, I say, God, I swear to you, I'll be good forever. And then the first time I fail, I think, okay, obviously I don't have the make to be, I just won't make it, right? Imagine if I would have enough guts to say to God, I promise you for 2 minutes. What's wrong with 2 minutes? And you know, in eternity, 2 minutes are just as good as 70 years, you know? Anyway, I was so glad I came to that city to see my little Mikve, you know? So here, I want to tell you something. Here we're getting together to talk about finding that part of us which is so holy, and maybe there's a little evil voice telling us, why do you need your higher self? Why do you need something holy? It doesn't fit into your life, right? The way you're living, the way you're doing. You need something holy, who needs it? Okay, so I'm just so glad to give you over the story. So friends, could we be holy for 5 minutes?